My last video, we made a couple of these dolls and I added this free little template that's also in the bottom description in this video as well. And this size pattern is going to be making this size of a doll. And what's different with this video compared to the last one is that I'm going to show you how you can sew this doll completely by hand instead of using the sewing machine. However, this doll is a lot bigger than this pattern. So this is a pattern that was made for this doll. So that's the pattern that's going to be in the description. So to get to this size, you're going to have to reduce it probably about, I want to say, to 25%, 50% about. You might have to just play around with it. The finish of this doll is approximately maybe like 5.5 to 6 inches. So very cute little hand. I have little hands, so this is a very cute like handheld size. It's so sweet. And it's perfect for maybe like an older kid. And also what's different is I actually painted on the hair on the dolls. So the underneath, the little scalp part is acrylic paint and it adheres very nicely to the fabric and it's permanent. We're gonna do a different style than what I did in this video to kind of switch things up. For the sake of the video, I'm just gonna be using a simple cotton fabric. I'm gonna use a light color and a dark thread so that or a semi-dark thread, just so you can kind of see a contrast and see the stitching that we're doing. So you're gonna need a cotton fabric, and then of course you're gonna need some fiber fill to stuff it. You're gonna need some sewing needles. This is definitely gonna come in hand when you're adding the arms on the doll. It's a long doll needle, and that helps completely go through the doll's body instead of potentially losing a very small needle if you're inserting it all the way through. Next, I highly recommend getting some hemostats. It's so much easier to turn everything inside out and to stuff your doll. But if not, you can always use a good old chopstick or even a pencil or paintbrush. I like to use some embroidery thread, and that's how we get the little eyes, nose, and mouth, and some yarn for the hair. And also a couple of small buttons. These are less than 1 centimeter, so you'll need a couple buttons because we're going to be button joining the arms. Start off by printing out the template. It is a PDF file. You can find it in the description box below. Print it out, cut it out, and then you're going to transfer that template onto your fabric. Double your fabric and trace the outlines carefully. You're going to need 1 body and 2 arms on your doubled fabric. Then once you're done with that, you're going to start stitching by using the back stitch, which is going to be nice and strong for your doll. Okay, I'm just going to show really quick the type of stitching that I'm going to be doing, the back stitch. So I'm going to start off where the opening is, and I'm not going to start off at the very edge. I'm going to start off a little bit past that, and I'm going to come up from the bottom and go back down to the beginning point. Okay, and that's 1 stitch. Then you're going to come back up. Then you go back down into the same hole of the previous stitch. Then you're just going to continue that all the way along the template lines. And I'm just showing here with some embroidery thread so it's nice and dark and you can see the contrast and see what I'm doing. Okay, just like that. And when it comes time to close the stitch from where your last stitch came out of, you're just gonna go and place your needle right under just the thread, not the fabric, but just the thread. Then you're gonna loop it through and pull the needle through that loop once and then twice. I like to double knot it and just pull it tight. And there we go. You got a nice, secure back stitch. So you're going to do this entire stitch all the way around your pattern pieces. Now we have our pieces stitched up, so we are going to cut around and we're going to leave a little bit of some seam allowance, maybe like 1/8 of an inch. Some pinking shears, which you can use regular shears as well, and just be sure to snip around the corners and curves. Okay, and in between the legs, I'm going to use a regular shears because it's a bit tight there. I should have made it a little bit separate. And then just be sure to snip around the curve so that the fabric doesn't pucker up. This is actually a bit too close for comfort here. So if I were to have done this again, I probably wouldn't have sewn or maybe even made the pattern so close. But maybe take the stitches and sewn it on the inside of the line and around this leg area, because you don't want to cut it too close and then your fabric is going to fray or rip. All right, now I actually did the last arm on the machine just for the sake of time, because I do these usually at night or when my baby is napping, so time is of the essence. So now I'm going to go ahead and take my handy dandy hemostat and I'm going to turn these inside out. Let's start off with the hand sewn one. And it's just so easy because you can like lightly grip it and just pull it straight through here. If you don't have a hemostat, you could probably use a pair of tweezers. Okay, use a stick to kind of push it through. Okay, and then there's our little arm. Okay, now I'm going to be doing a ladder stitch to close up the seam. Now we're going to be adding the arms to the body, and it's very, very simple. It just involves a very long piece of thread. I actually double up my thread and I use upholstery thread. It's a lot stronger than using your regular sewing thread. And having a long piece allows you to have lots to work with, and it ensures that your long tail end does not get lost in the doll. I start off by marking my points with needles and my air-soluble pen to figure out where I want the arms to go. I thread my needle and I don't add a knot. I insert the needle through the doll's body, then through the arms, then through the button, then back through the arm, back through the doll's body, and out through the other side, and I do this twice. When you're first pulling the needle through the doll's body, you don't pull it all the way through, and you're going to leave a long tail end at the end. And when you're done, we're actually going to tie it into a knot. So once you have strung your thread through your doll, through your arm, through your button, and back through twice, you're going to finish off at the arm, and you're going to take away your needle, and you take your two tail ends of your thread tie a nice knot, and you can either snip them or you can either sink the tails of the threads back into the doll, which is what I prefer to do because I don't like the little tips sticking out the back of my arm's doll. If you want a better explanation or maybe a better visual on this, I will attach a video I already did down below, and that one could maybe give you a better idea of how I attach the arms. When it comes to doing the hair, it might seem a little tricky, but it's actually quite easy. You're going to want to start off with marking your doll with, I prefer to use the air-soluble or water-soluble ink marker. You're going to make your hairline of your doll. Then you're going to place pins neatly spaced along the hairline, and you're going to wrap yarn around back and forth, up and down, side to side, all throughout the pins until everything is nicely covered. You can make it look really neat. I tend to get a little bit messy with mine when I'm doing this style, which I don't mind. Kind of gives the yarn maybe of a curly look. Once you're done with that, you leave a long tail end so that it doesn't fall out of the needles. Then you're going to take your light colored embroidery thread, and you're basically going to sew on each little pin of hair. I like to loop my needle through the yarn, then remove the pin, place the needle into the doll's head, and then come back out to where the next pin will be. Again, loop that yarn, take that and back stitch, and you're going to do that all the way around the hairline until everything is neatly secured down. I try to be very clear and concise, but sometimes I have a little bit hard of a time to explain things. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment below, or if you even have a better suggestion, leave those in a comment below too, because I think we can all benefit from that. For the bun, I cut a long piece of yarn and I bundle that up into 3 strands, and I go ahead and do a simple braid. I then take that and wrap that around my fingers, and I bunch it together and kind of loop the tail end through that little bunch, and again back stitching and sewing that little bun onto the doll's head until it's nice and secure. Now we're going to be stitching on the eyes, nose, and mouth, and here I'm doing it on a different doll that I recently finished, but it's the same steps that I used to do the doll for this video. I do 2 French knots for the eyes and some basic back stitching for the nose and the mouth that we've been doing pretty much the whole video. And once you're done, you tie a knot at the end and you sink the knot back into your doll to hide it. Okay, and here is our little finished hand-sewn cloth doll with her lovely button jointed arms and crazy yarn hair with a little top knot. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing if you'd like to see more like these in the future. If you did follow along and sew a little doll yourself, I'd love to see it. So be sure to tag Root and Stitch on Instagram. And that's it. Have a lovely day creating.